Takes the snap, hands it off to Barca. Barca making one quick move, a whole lot of free real estate. Barca, 40, 50. Barca having three men chasing him down the far sideline. Can he get there? Will he get there? Yes, he will. Norwin with the touchdown.
Live from our Seton Hill University studios, this is Westmoreland on the Gridiron on the Westmoreland Sports Network. Here's your host, Sean Meyers.
And welcome into a very special edition of Westmoreland on the Gridiron here on the Westmoreland Sports Network. Sean Meyers, Dan Flickinger, each and every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Typically, I would say we're coming to you from Seton Hill University. That's true for one of us. Yeah,
give a
Dan
shout out
is,
to Griff's football for winning their biggest game of the program history in terms of the point differential there last week, huh?
Yeah, pretty good one for the Griffins. But for me, it has not been necessarily a banner week. I have my Penn State stuff that did not go too well. Unfortunately, I'm at my house because I am in isolation right now. I had some very brief symptoms last week, got tested for COVID, and found out Friday night I indeed have COVID. So while I feel completely fine, can't go anywhere until October 31st, Halloween. I will make my return. And
I won't ask you what you're wearing, Sean.
Yeah. I'll probably ease my way back in by wearing a legitimate mask and things of that nature.
Well, let me tell you how committed this guy is. First of all, I'm glad you're feeling well, Sean. Sean was waiting until the very last second to see if he was positive or not, to see if the test results would post. He was supposed to do Hempfield NA last week, and literally down to the last second, and eventually you found out the
right. And at that point, I'd actually already gotten over the symptoms. I was feeling fine, but I said, obviously, I can't do the game unless I find out that I'm negative. I was hoping that would come. It did not. And at about 8 o'clock that night, I found out. So probably about the second quarter of Hempfield and NA, as I was sitting in my house, I found out that would not be doing a game that night, would not be doing a game for the foreseeable future. So instead, we're doing this virtually here tonight. Thank you for tuning in. And we've got a lot to get to because we will talk to John Flickinger, the voice of the Derry area Trojans, in just a little bit, as he will discuss the dismissal of Vince Skillings as the head coach from the Derry area program. We'll also run down all of the Week 8 scores and top performers. Of course, our always popular Plays of the Week segment. Couple of good interviews this week. Roger Beitel of the Ligonier Valley Rams. We'll get to them momentarily, as well as Carter Green, the quarterback for the Penn-Trafford Warriors, as he was voted our player of the week. And a look ahead at, unbelievably, the final week of the WPIAL football regular season with the Week 9 preview. But first, Flick, let's take a look back at some of the biggest stories from this past week. And now you start to get to the point, these games are determining, are teams going to get into the playoffs? Are they going to miss the playoffs? Are they at least still in contention? And for Ligonier Valley, they're not technically in yet, but this was a must-have game. And they found a way to get a thrilling victory as they knock off the Shadyside Academy Bulldogs by a single point, 26-25. So for Roger Beitel, we'll get a little bit further into details, but the fact that they had the game seemingly locked up, then almost had it ripped away from them, only to make a goal line stand. It seems like each and every week we have at least one game that has an absolutely unbelievable finish here in Westmoreland County. And this past week, certainly it was the Rams prevailing.
Yeah, and last year, I should say, it was pretty crazy too, right? Ligonier Valley beating Shadyside Academy in a shootout. The Rams looked like they were just going to kind of salt the game away. You know, they had that kneel down situation, and kind of a botched snap fumble led to Shadyside Academy recovering it. And then our boy Jude came up with a huge play as he was able to tackle Wickland for Shadyside Academy and stop what would have been certainly a heartbreaking loss for the Ligonier Valley Rams. But give them credit. They were able to come back after really, again, turning the ball over there, and, you know, could have been a bone crushing loss certainly for them. So they still have some more work to do this week against Apollo Ridge, but certainly a big win for the Vikings, or should say for the Rams last week.
Yeah. And now 7-2. And one thing that Roger and I talk about, and I think it's very interesting, they get off to the 5-0 start, and then they lose a couple of games, one by forfeit because they went through some injuries, and now they're fighting for their lives to get in. So those 5 wins at the beginning of the season really meant nothing Unfortunately for them, they incurred some injuries, but I think they're getting a little bit more healthy, and a great side in Hayden Siraki, not only back because he played the prior week as well. He was able to throw the football, at least on a limited basis. So if they get him back at full strength, maybe they'll start to resemble a little bit more the team that defeated Elizabeth Forward early in the season. Remember,
it's a shame, rolling. Sean, because you would have loved to see him in the lineup, when Ligonier Valley played Sarah Cath. Well, of course, that game didn't happen. When they played Still Valley, how much of a difference he would have made. I think he makes a huge difference for this Ligonier team on both sides of the football. And just having his presence in the lineup, I think Roger Beitel would say, is just gigantic for the Rams. So it's good that he was able to throw the football last week, and hopefully he's fully healthy here and hopefully can lead the Rams to a win.
Absolutely. Well, we mentioned Ligonier Valley got off to that great start, 5-0, all of those wins being non-conference. Unfortunately, the same thing happened for the Kiski area Cavaliers. They stockpiled wins that really didn't count. And for them, they are now eliminated from playoff contention. Another heartbreaker. They lost to Pine Richland 33-27. So despite being 6-3, Kiski area is out of the playoffs in 5A. And you go back and you look at the losses. Their first one came against North Hills in the final minute. They let one slip away kind of against Fox Chapel. And now they go against one of the very best teams, and they come within 6 points. It just has to be so frustrating for Sam Albert and crew to really have a great season, and yet know heading into the final week of the season, they're not going to have any chance to get into the playoffs.
Yeah, he said it after the game, Sam Albert did, that we're a few plays away from being a playoff team, being already in the playoffs. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. You mentioned the great start, the greatest start since the 80s for Kiski area, and then they lose, 3 of their last 4 games, and they're out of playoff contention. And tough games, a 14-10 loss to North Hills, 35-21 to Fox Chapel, and then the loss 33-27 to Pine Richland. I mean, they've been in every game. They've battled so tough all season. And who would have thought last year, Sean, right? I mean, I know Pine Richland's not as good as they've been, but look at Kiski competing with a great football program like Pine Richland. I don't think we would have thought that would have been possible a year ago, but obviously this Kiski area team has given, max effort every week, week in and week out. They started the season with all those wins, and now they're sitting outside of a playoff picture because they lost those close games. And remember, you look back at that game against North Hills, that 14-10 loss. Kiski area lost Hilty in that game, who was a very good player. He hasn't played since then. A guy that can help you on the offensive side of the ball, can line up at wide receiver, running back, and on the defensive side of the ball as well. Brock Wilkins has been in and out of the lineup this year. CJ Hepler, a great job stepping up for him. As a matter of fact, Wilkins actually was injured in the first quarter against Pine Richland. Right. So Kiski area has also been dealing with injuries like everybody is, but the Cavaliers don't have a ton of depth this year. So the injuries have certainly hurt them. And despite all of that, they were right there at the end. Unfortunately, they're not going to get into the playoffs, but I think they have to be proud. And I think the coaches are proud of the way that the Cavaliers started the year, certainly, but the way that they battled all year long, because again, all of these games, even the ones that they lost, have been fairly close.
And we talk about Kiski area and their narrow defeats. I think the exact same applies for Greater Latrobe, another team in 5A that unfortunately was eliminated from playoff contention this past week. They were awfully close, but just could not close out Woodland Hills. The Wolverines win 26-17. So Greater Latrobe falls to 3-6. I talk to Jason Maruco, the head coach, every week for a preview I do for the Latrobe Bulletin. And it seems like he's just repeating himself. We play really hard. We get off to a good start. Can't make 1 or 2 of those plays late to finish the games. That was the case again. They held a fourth quarter lead. They had an early advantage over Woodland Hills, got off to another good start. Just could not put them away. So they missed the playoffs as well. And I know that this is something that maybe will be reevaluated. I do not like the idea of 5 non-conference games, and then you only have 5 conference games at the end of the season to try to make hay into getting into the playoffs. That's what the Cavaliers have dealt with. That's what Greater Latrobe has dealt with. Ligonier Valley, same scenario. I would like to have those early season games maybe count for something, or figure out a way to put more teams in some of these conferences, because for teams like Kiski area and Greater Latrobe, you just lose one narrow game and you're out of the playoffs realistically.
Yeah, when the old format was around with 4 classifications, I think it was a lot easier. But
Yep.
At one time, for a long time, you'd play 3 non-conference games to start the season, and then the rest of the games would be conference. And I think that's reasonable. But
Yes.
stretching it to 5 is really tough. And I know that's something that kind of has irked you since the beginning of the season, that a lot of these 5A schools have to play 5 non-conference games before they get into regular season or before they get into conference play. But you look at Latrobe, they're similar to Kiski area, as you mentioned, Sean. I think Latrobe is a better team this year than they've been. But again, they have not been able to figure out how to close out games. You look at last year, they had an opportunity to close out some games in some big games, one against Woodland Hills, was not able to do it. And then this year, again, they're leading Woodland Hills, not able to close that out. They lost to Kiski area earlier this year.
You go back to that loss to Franklin Regional, though.
It's been kind of a bugaboo for this Latrobe team, which, again, I think does have some talent, but, they're going to be sitting on the outside looking in now.
Yep. Unfortunately, a couple of teams, as we mentioned, already eliminated. Last thing I want to get to for our takeaways. This was an emotional night for Roy Hall as he had his home farewell, and it came, unfortunately, for him and for the Jayhawks in a lopsided loss as they came up short against GCC. Greensburg Central Catholic winning 49-3. And I think, I don't know if Coach Hall really talked much about this or not, the fact that a lot of his former players came back and put sort of a beat down on his team, it had to be a kind of a bittersweet moment, right? Jaden Kennedy goes off for a massive performance. Obviously, guys like Ryan Kimmel come back as well, even Amari Mack, who started at Jeanette a couple years ago. But while the outcome of the game is one thing, I think everyone there realized this is more about what Coach Hall has meant to Jeanette for 40-plus years. And he got a really nice send-off, even though it did not maybe go the way he wanted on the field.
Yeah, our friends from Western PA Sports, Ken Reeby was actually there. We're going to take a look at a picture here of Roy, and obviously had some tears after the game. The marching band played the fight song for him in front of him, and he was pumping his fist saying, "Thank you very much." And Sean, one of the big reasons that I do what I do, and I'm sure you can say the same thing, is the relationships that we're able to have with coaches, players, even parents and fans. And when I think about the relationships that I have with coaches, Coach Hall is right there at the top because he is such a genuinely good person. He's a good coach. He's been great for that football program. Like a father figure to many of the kids. And I can tell you unequivocally, talking with him many times and people that know him, he cares so deeply about the football program and the success of the football program. And that's something that he certainly won't stop doing, I'm sure, as he transitions out of being a head coach. Earlier today, actually, we went to McKee Stadium, and Brent Wiggum and Anthony D'Annunzio sat down with Coach Hall to talk to him about a lot of different topics. We're going to have that on our YouTube channel very soon, so be looking for that. We'll tweet it out. We'll have it on our Facebook page, and then again, you can go to our YouTube channel to watch it because it was really interesting to hear the things that Coach Hall was saying. But I just want to reiterate how much of a great relationship that we had with Coach Hall and thank him so much for his support over the decade plus that we've talked with him, whether it be for pregame interviews. He always came to our kickoff show with multiple coaches. He would stay after for a while after he got interviewed. I mean, he was just a great, great person that loved football and continues to love Jeanette. And I know things went very, very sour this year, and it was just a very weird season, but that should not delete what he did up to this point. A WPIAL championship last year, a WPIAL state championship a few years back, and what he did as a player as well at Jeanette. I don't think we can continue, and especially the Jeanette community, I don't think we can thank him enough for what he has done, particularly the Jeanette community.
Yep, and he will still have one more game to coach, but again, that was his home farewell on Friday night. Thanks so much for head coach Roy Hall for everything that he's done for me as well. I've worked with him since my first year covering high school football. I think maybe the second or third game I ever did for the newspaper, I was covering Jeanette, and I talked to Coach Roy Hall afterwards. So always enjoy my interactions with him. That'll do it for the biggest takeaways. We'll take a break, but when we continue right here on Westmoreland on the Gridiron, we'll welcome in the voice of the Derry area Trojans, John Flickinger, to talk about the dismissal of head coach Vince Skillings. We'll also look at all of the scores from week 8 and the top performers. And a little bit later, plays of the week, as well as interviews with Ligonier Valley head coach Roger Beitel and Carter Green, the quarterback for the Penn-Trafford Warriors, and a look ahead to week 9 with our preview. That's all to come right here on Westmoreland on the Gridiron.
At Sundell Mitsubishi, buying your new vehicle is as easy as stop, shop, and roll. Stop wasting time in the dealership. Shop online in just a few easy steps. Roll on home in your new Mitsubishi or have it delivered to your door. SundellMitsubishi.com. At Sundell Volkswagen, buying your new vehicle is as easy as stop, shop, and roll. Stop wasting time in the dealership. Shop online in just a few easy steps. Roll on home in your new Volkswagen or have it delivered to your door. SundellVolkswagen.com.
Your next golf adventure awaits at Manor Valley Golf Course in Export. Manor Valley offers 18 scenic holes over gentle sloping fairways and the purest putting surfaces around. Manor Valley Golf Course in Export is the perfect place to host your next golf outing, banquet party, or shower. Manor Valley also offers league play and great membership rates. Tee times available. Call 724-744-4242. Visit ManorValleyGC.com.
And welcome back to Westmoreland on the Gridiron each and every Wednesday, 7 p.m. Doing it a little remotely here tonight. Seton Hill University for Dan Flickinger and my residence for Sean Meyers. We're joined now by the head baseball coach for the Derry area Trojans, but he's most well known as the voice of the Trojans, John Flickinger.
Taking the time down to your box. There we go.
Yes, there he is. He is ready to talk about Derry area football. And unfortunately, some news that came out last week, right around the time we were about to go on the air with our show, didn't get a chance to talk about it, but we want to focus this week on the dismissal of former head coach Vince Skillings, coming a couple weeks before the end of this season. So somewhat peculiar timing. And John, when you heard the news, what was your initial reaction?
Well, I was shocked. I'll say that. I got a call from Coach Skillings, and I've known him for a long time, and even used to coach me back in the youth football days. And so I've known him, and he gave me a call, and he told me that he was being let go for the last couple of games, and he was thanking us for the coverage that we gave him. And we just got to talking for a while, and it was just it's kind of an awkward situation in a way, because you don't really know what to say. But after talking with Vince and discussing things, this program right now is in disarray. I don't think anybody would say otherwise right now, and it's kind of sad to see, because 3 years ago we were at Heinz Field, and this has happened. But in saying that, one thing I said to Vince is, because he's a heck of a guy. It's not all him that kind of made this happen. Really, truly, when Tim Sweeney left the program, and he did such a tremendous job, obviously, but the cupboard was bare at Derry, and you could see that coming. The middle school team, Tim's last season, had to cancel a couple of games because they didn't have enough players to participate. And it kind of put Vince in a tough situation when he was hired anyway. And then there were some situations that occurred throughout the year, this season, that, he lost the locker room, and he knows he lost the locker room, and it's not all his fault that he lost the locker room. There were a lot of, things that played a part in that, the intangibles of a football season, including, assistant coaches. They were all young, and, they didn't have any experience as well. So he was kind of in over his head, and he knew it. He was trying to get through the season. He was optimistic on, turning things around next season, getting some more players into the program. Derry was playing in the low 20s for most of the season. And, the seniors tried to step up at times, and there were also some times where there was some dissension in that locker room. And so I can look at both sides of the ledger, but our administration decided now was the right time to make that decision. And Vince respects it. And, not happy with it, obviously. But again, you have to understand that, when things like this happen, it's kind of a trickle down effect, to everybody. And So that's kind of how I learned of it. I learned of it from Vince. And then, of course, being in the district and being, close to our athletic director, Brett Miller, I made sure that we went about it the right way in how we were going to handle the situation and getting it out there to the public as well. We reported it just as we were told that it occurred. So again, it's an unfortunate situation because Vince is such a good person. But I think when we ended our phone call, just him and I talking, I said, well, this might be, Vince, a blessing in disguise in a way, at least for this year. I don't know what the future holds. I don't know what exactly is going to happen. Speculation could be that we'll be looking for a new head football coach. I do not know that for a fact, but all I do know is that it was just a very unfortunate situation. And right now, this football program is in some trouble.
And the timing, again, it was interesting because there was only 2 games remaining, and his dismissal sort of took place in the middle of last week, meaning that it was a quick turnaround before the matchup against Burrell. So going against a Buccaneers team that, quite frankly, had also struggled, thought that might be a winnable game. Dairy area ultimately lost that one 43-13. From your perspective, how did things unfold on the sideline? Who was making the decisions? Because I know that Brett was helping out in addition to all the previous assistant coaches.
Yeah, Brett was more of the coordinator of things, making sure that the structure stayed what it should be through the remainder of the week. But remember, these guys only had a couple of days to practice with the team. Micah Roan, who has, he was an outstanding player in high school at Homer Center several years ago, and he's also coached there, and he's still coaching there as a volunteer. He helps out at their practices, and he does that. But being as an associate principal, having to step in and do that job, it could have been better for Derry to have that, because what I saw on the sideline on Friday night, I saw structure. And again, that's nothing against Vince Skillings or any of his staff. But the one thing that Derry has lacked all season long is structure on the sidelines. There was some bickering going on. There's a lot of things as an announcer that I saw all season I did not see on Friday night. So I think those guys were able to come down and bring some structure, but you're not going to change everything in that amount of time, that period of time, as far as, schematically and how you're going to do on the football field. But I did see ultimate effort from the team on Friday, despite the score, that they were in the game for, most of the first half. But at the same time, I saw discipline, and that's something I had not seen throughout the season.
John, looking at the future of Derry football, I know you said right now something needs to kind of happen in the off season to maybe bring everybody together, get more kids out to play football. But we've talked about it before, and I'm sure you've talked about it on the broadcast, that the middle school team is having a fine season. There are some positive things happening at the midget level as well with the Pack Pups and Lobos. So when you look at the future, if this can turn around in terms of getting, the right people in here to get more kids out and fill out this coaching staff, would you say, because of the success that the teams in the lower levels are having, that, we have an opportunity at Derry to, maybe not get back to a WPL championship level, who knows, but to get back to a competitive football team?
Oh, there's no question. I think, when you look at the middle school program, the midget program, and they are doing well, they're not dominating teams. Some people ask me, can that carry over? I've been here for a long time, and I've seen it both ways. I've seen middle school teams that are undefeated here, and they come up to the high school level and are very subpar at best. I've seen teams like, of course, the special team we had a few years ago, where they were, pretty much dominating everybody in middle school. Our middle school kids this year, it's a nice group of kids, around 30 kids or so, I believe. Don't quote me on that exact amount, but those kids, there's some talent there. There's some talent in the midget organization, but that all has to be brought together by a couple of things. First of all, kids grow, and they get better or worse differently, right? I mean, when you look at high school football in general, it was a certainly a big thing when Derry dropped down to Class 3A and Tim took over in 2014. He had all the right puzzle pieces and he put them together, and him and his staff did a tremendous job to do that. There's no reason why that can't happen again here. It's just going to take some time. The middle school situation looks pretty good right now. How many of those kids are going to continue to play? How many kids that didn't play this year that are younger are going to come in and play next year? That's the key. It's bodies on the field, and it's a support staff, coaches, staff, to be able to lead them in the right direction. And I think it starts with structure and discipline. And again, one thing that I noticed about it was structure and discipline. Now, Vince told me the one thing that really hurt him, he felt, not him personally, but the team, is the fact that his off-season program wasn't well attended by some upperclassmen. Again, that's just coming from his mouth. That's something that can't happen. I mean, you look at the best of the best football teams around not only Westmoreland County, but around the state of Pennsylvania. They're going to tell you they have a great off-season program where kids don't miss. They come in ready and serious about playing football, and they get better. And some of the kids that might not be as good when they're younger, they get better. And I think that's what Tim instilled in that group of kids. And I think that's what we're going to need if we want to get back to, winning games again.
John, final thing that I have for you. Obviously, it did not work out for Vince Skillings in terms of coaching this team. But I know in my brief interaction with him, he's such a great guy and such a positive guy, and he's overcome so much in his life. And I know that Brett Miller, I believe, in a quote that he gave to the Latrobe Bulletin, said that he still wants Vince to be acknowledged as one of the very best that has ever come out of Derry area. And he doesn't want this to tarnish his legacy. I know you have a pretty good relationship with Vince. What do you think his legacy should ultimately be?
I just think he, as Brett said, and he said in our interview that we did before the game against Burl that I had with him, I think that he's very proud. He has so much pride. I think, if Vince doesn't retain this position, and again, I don't know what's going to exactly happen, but it seems that way. I just think that Vince will always be welcome back here. Even if he wants to jump on later as an assistant coach or something, depending on who would take the reins over as the head coach. He's just a wonderful person, and he means well. It was frustrating for everybody involved in that football program, and that's players and coaches, administrators, and all. But I think the legacy is still there. I mean, as Brett said, and we see every day when we walk past it, he's a record holder of this district. He's well thought of in this district, and he's just a great person. It just, it didn't work out. And sometimes, that happens, and I wish him all the best. And he's just an awesome guy.
John, thank you so much for doing this. We appreciate the time, as always, getting your insight into the Trojans program.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
You're our first ever Zoom guest, so you should feel very proud of that.
Right. And you see, I made sure I had my Derry baseball garb back here just to
go Trojans.
Just to promote
defending
the Trojans.
section champion baseball team, by the way.
Defending, that's the key word. We'll see what happens.
John,
thanks,
thank
guys.
you so much.
Good luck this week. Thanks.
That's John Flickinger, the voice of the Derry area Trojans football team. Good insight there. And of course, we kind of highlighted it, Derry area on the wrong end of a 43-13 outcome against Burl. That's one of the games you can go back and listen to in the archives from this past week. Let's look at all of the scores from week 8. We already touched on a number of these. Norwin defeats Cannon McMillan 16-7. And you think, okay, maybe that's the game that potentially could get the Knights into the playoffs. Unfortunately, that does not appear to be an option because of the tiebreaker points. And they had that forfeit that seemed to be rather damaging earlier in the season. But sitting at 3-6, if you want to see some of what the Knights have to offer, go back and watch that one. Seems like a really nice win for a team that could finish up on a nice little winning streak potentially, Dan.
Yeah, no, I agree. And how about the run by Dom Barca, 95 yards to the house, I believe set a new Norwin football record for longest touchdown run. And normally when you hit a run like that, it's the offensive line and your speed. But Dom actually made a move at the line of scrimmage. If we will be seeing that coming up in Plays of the Week. I don't want to give too much away, but he made a great move at the line of scrimmage, a little juke or a little cut there, and he was gone and really showed off his speed. So I think that was certainly something that will be memorable from that game and from his senior season. But you're right, Sean, it's a shame. Norwin was in control against Baldwin a few weeks ago before they had the bad punt snap, before they had, I think, another bad snap in that game, if I remember right. And then all of a sudden Baldwin goes in front and wins the game. If they beat Baldwin, we might be talking about something different right now. That was certainly a huge loss, and that's forfeit against Seneca Valley ends up coming back to hurt Norwin because of the Gardner point system.
Yeah, really, it's going to be a playoff miss, but a season where I think the Knights made some real strides to becoming a competitive team against some of the very best in 6A. A team that is always amongst the very best is the Penn-Trafford Warriors, and they proved that again on Friday in a Westmoreland County showdown. You can go back and watch their 49-7 victory over Franklin Regional, and I think the most impressive thing to me is that it seems like Penn-Trafford's starting to throw the football with some success. Unfortunately for the Panthers, that roller coaster victory the week before did not carry over.
When you look back at that game, Sean, Penn-Trafford was in control from the beginning, and I think going into that game, I talked with John Ruane before our pregame show, and I said, Coach, you seem to be playing your best football when it matters, and he agreed with that. I mean, they're really peaking at the right time, and I know it was a bad matchup for Franklin Regional playing at Penn-Trafford. You have PT playing its final regular season home game on senior night, so you knew they were going to be fired up. You're facing a team that is peaking at the right time. But PT, they controlled the game like that. Right off the hop, they took control of the game. They scored early and often and really never allowed Franklin Regional to get any traction. And that came after, again, the Panthers, off of a thrilling win against the Latrobe Wildcats.
Yeah, certainly that momentum did not carry over for Coach Getzy and squad. Another one you can go back and watch. Mount Pleasant area gets a crucial victory. They knock off South Park 28-6. The Vikings now in the playoffs in Class 3A. We mentioned Burrow defeating Derry area. Another game that we had a broadcast of, we highlighted it before, the 49-3 victory for Greensburg Central Catholic over Jeanette. Other scores from around Westmoreland County, North Allegheny beats up on Hempfield area 65-13. Unfortunately, that was the game that I was slated to broadcast. For obvious reasons, not able to go there, but another tough one for Coach Mike Brown and squad as they went up against another very difficult challenge in 6A. Woodland Hills, as we mentioned before, defeats Greater Latrobe 26-17, ending the Wildcats' hopes of postseason play. The same happened in the Kiski area as they fell another heartbreaker 33-27 against the Rams. Some of the other games, Highlands doubles up Greensburg-Salem 40-20. A little disappointing to see the Golden Lions not a little bit more competitive in that one. And as a result, Flick, we'll get into it a little bit further when we get to our Week 9 preview. They face in all likelihood, a must-win game this week. So you don't mind having the chance to kind of control your own destiny, but it would have been a lot nicer to kind of put it away a week early.
Yeah, and I'm sure Dave Kiefer would agree with that. It's always nice to be able to say, hey, if we win this game, we get into the playoffs. But had they won last week's game against Highlands, they're probably in at that point. But that sets up certainly a crucial game against the Plum Mustangs this week.
And the same could be said for Southmoreland as the Scotties came up shy against Elizabeth Ford 56-13. EF continues to roll. They have won 7 straight games. The Scotties fall to 6-3. How about the Yawk Cougars getting their first victory of the season, 49-26 over Brownsville. It comes at the expense of the Falcons, who now drop to 0-7. And while you celebrated on the Yawk side, I think an interesting story that came out pretty much right after this score went final is that the Falcons will be leaving the WPIAL the next couple of seasons. They will be playing an independent schedule. They will be joining several other teams in recent years. We've seen Albert Gallatin leave the WPIAL. Uniontown has left. Those two schools in proximity to Brownsville, Butler as well. And you have to wonder maybe if this is going to be a thing that continues with Brownsville leaving. Wouldn't be surprised maybe in a couple of years if Fayette County basically has its own league. That being said, though, you look at it from the Yawk side, still pretty exciting to get that first victory. And they did it shorthanded, down about 7 guys after the fight against Valley. East Allegheny 40, Valley nothing. So the Wildcats continue to roll. Ligonier Valley, we talked about this one. We'll hear a little bit more from head coach Roger Beitel. A thrilling 26-25 victory against Shadyside Academy. And California area defeats Monessen 23-0. As a result, the Greyhounds have a win and you're in scenario upcoming for the final week of the regular season. On the college side, Seton Hill 49, Clarion nothing. Flick, this is a big return for Dan Day as he gets one of the most lopsided wins in team history. It seems like they were just clicking on all cylinders on Saturday.
Yeah, Sean, talk about scoring early and often. We talked about Penn-Trafford at the high school level. Seton Hill gets their biggest margin of victory in program history with a 49-0 victory over Clarion. And you got to give it up to Logan Weiland. This kid has done it week in and week out, whether Seton Hill has won or lost. He has been the key part of their offense. He scores 3 touchdowns, I believe, in the first half. He was just amazing, and he continues to lead the PSAC in rushing, by the way. And you also look at Jake McCormick, who seems to be coming on a little bit. Seton Hill was able to throw the football pretty well against Clarion. And I know the Golden Eagles aren't a great team this year, but any type of success that they can have on offense going forward is certainly a big thing. And the defense, man, the defense just continues to do its job. It's done it week in and week out. That's a momentum builder, a confidence builder for Seton Hill to win a game like that.
Yeah, getting a shutout at the collegiate level, always very, very impressive. So the Griffins now sitting at 4-4. And St. Vincent College goes above 500 as the Bearcats defeat Waynesburg 38-7. That rounds out the scores. Let's quickly look at the top performers from Week 8 around the WPIAL with a little bit of local flavor as well. The top passer, rusher, and receiver from the entire district, plus the notable local performers here in Westmoreland County. Top passer is Hunter Plahiak of Brownsville. Yes, the Falcons struggled and lost, but he threw for 267 yards.
How about that?
On 14 of 35. Just a wild game for a couple of teams that have really struggled to get into the end zone. So in the loss, he has a big showing for Brownsville. Not far behind, a familiar name as Hayden Teska for Greensburg-Salem. 20 of 44, throwing the ball a lot, had to ice down that shoulder afterwards, I would think. 251 yards through the air. Kiski area's Logan Johnson goes for 185 yards passing on 11 of 17. And Carter Green of Penn-Trafford, we know he can run it. He's been able to throw to some success recently as well. 9 of 13, 139 yards passing. The top rusher from Week 8 around the WPIAL, well, he happens to be a quarterback and a pretty darn good one. Laurel Highlands' Rodney Gallagher, again, one of the best athletes in the entire country when you factor both basketball and football into the equation. So he needed every one of those in the Mustangs' victory. Amongst Westmoreland County performers, Jaden Kennedy of Greensburg Central Catholic, a bit of a homecoming for him as we highlighted, 191 yards. Shane Swope of the Yaw Cougars goes for 148. Hayden Siraki back for Ligonier Valley, rushes for 126. Dom Barca, keep by that long run for the Norwood Knights, 124 yards on the ground. And Cade Yakimelli of Penn-Trafford, 107. The top receiver from around the WPIAL, we have called his name a bunch over the last couple of years, Zach Boyd of Elizabeth Forward. This time he goes for 192 yards on 4 receptions against the Scotties. He was massive against the Vikings.
He really was, man.
As
and he's not a big kid at all. The way that he was able
what
to
a great player, though.
The way that he was able to weave in and out of the defense many times against Mount Pleasant was really impressive. And he did it again, obviously. This 4 catches for 192 yards. This kid's exciting.
Yeah, he absolutely is. Another player very exciting, that's Cody Ruprecht. He's been doing it all season for Greensburg-Salem. Took him 9 receptions, but he goes over the century mark with 110 yards. That'll do it for the Week 8 scores and top performers. We'll take a break, but when we come back, it will be the always popular plays of the week. That's as we continue right here on Westmoreland on the Gridiron.
You're always on the winning team with Bowser Chevrolet of Monroeville and Bowser Chevrolet Chippewa. Visit BowserChevrolet.com 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and get the power of Bowser in your hands. With the new Chevy vehicles arriving weekly, reserve yours now at Bowser Chevrolet. See the full lineup of Chevy cars, trucks, and SUVs at BowserChevrolet.com. Bowser Chevrolet, where the power of Bowser is yours.
This is how far we'll go to treat heart, lung, and vascular disease. 15 millimeters. At Excella Health, we believe less can be more. That's why we use minimally invasive surgery in the treatment of coronary artery disease, heart valve repair and replacement, lung cancer, and conditions of the peripheral arteries. For our patients, that means less blood loss, less postoperative pain, and a faster recovery. It means that a disease process that took decades to develop can, in a few hours, be reversed. And for us, it means providing the most advanced and sophisticated care for patients in our region. The Heart, Lung, and Vascular Institute at Excella Health. Expert care here.
We roll along here on Westmoreland on the Gridiron each and every Wednesday, 7 p.m. Sean and Dan talking high school football. We appreciate John Flickinger taking the time to talk to us, the voice of the Derry area Trojans. It's now time for everyone's favorite segment, Flick. It is time for
Plays of the Week. Virtually.
Yes, virtually Plays of the Week. And we have a lot to get to. We'll begin with Norwin as the Knights notched their most impressive win of the season. It came against Cannon McMillan, and running back Dom Barca was the catalyst. His long run staked Norwin to a 2-score lead in the fourth quarter, as called by Jack Ridenauer and Tim McKay.
This Norwin offense that is backed up deep into their own territory. The pistol, Lewandowski takes the snap, hands it off to Barca. Barca making one quick move, a whole lot of free real estate. Barca, 40, 50. Barca having 3 men chasing him down the far sideline. Can he get there? Will he get there? Yes, he will. Norwin with the touchdown.
95-yard run. Out of nowhere. No flags on the field, and it was the initial move in the backfield. And then he caught the gap and just took off, and nobody was home for the Big Macs. Huge play for the Knights.
Will he get there? Yes, he will, says Jack Ridenauer. And what a run. I mentioned it earlier in the broadcast in our show tonight. The move that he made at the line of scrimmage to shake himself free, and then the speed. Congratulations to Dom Barca for that record-setting run.
And we continue Plays of the Week with Penn-Trafford, and you want to stick around to see this one, as the Warriors dominated against Franklin Regional, and they showed an array of offensive skill. But it was the defensive lineman who made perhaps the most impressive play, as the massive Zach Tomasevich recorded a pick-6 early in the third quarter, as detailed by the living legend, Jonathan Whaley.
Sidecar to the left, wins to the far side, single receiver short. Dropping back, looking over the middle. They throw the ball. No, he's going to get hit. Ball picked up. He's down to the 10, 5. Touchdown. Touchdown, Penn-Trafford. Number 76 picks that up. I'm going to say Zachary, Tomasevich. Looks like it. We'll get the replay. But let's look at that one. The big lineman, the sophomore, 6'6", 320. Watch him go rumbling down the sideline. And here you'll see, Donnelly is back, getting pressure, fires the ball, it's tipped by the big fella, and he takes it back 26 yards, rumbling. Look, he rumbled to the 10, to the 5. And look at the greeting he got on the sideline. That's how special, when those guys that are banging heads and battling bodies from play after play on the line, and then he gets a little bit of a water bath.
How about it? He got the water bath, Sean. The water bath, as Jonathan called it, from, I think it was Seth Dunlap that grabbed the water and threw it in his face. And then I think Zach actually spit the water out on someone. I'm sure it was by accident, but it was pretty funny, man. The sideline was just going insane for that. You don't normally see, not only did Zach tip the ball, but he intercepted it and returned it for a touchdown. That was a heck of a play.
Yeah, very skillful, and he's not necessarily the fastest player on the field, but he was fast enough to get the pick six. So congratulations to the big guy for that one, and an incredible performance by the Warriors. We continue plays of the week with Mount Pleasant area and the Vikings. They had a bounce back performance against South Park, and it was a long touchdown by Jackson Hutter late in the first quarter that gave them a lead they would never relinquish, as captioned by TJ DeStefano and Chris Smith.
So it's 2nd and 3, 1:15 left here in the quarter. Another handoff. This is going to the right and taking off down the sideline and into the end zone is Slabuda.
That's Jackson Hutter. I thought that was 42. Yeah, I saw the little bit of a neck roll, and he is pumped up, is he?
33-yard run for Jackson Hutter, and the Vikings are on the board first, 6-0.
That's what they needed here tonight. Get on the board first. Nice run. I mean, way to get to the edge, get those shoulders square north and south, and it was just a foot race to the end zone. Extra point to follow.
That is Jackson Hutter, not to be confused with Ian Hutter. They are not brothers. I learned that firsthand. They are related, but not brothers. And just another weapon on the ground for Mount Pleasant, a team that already has a couple of really good backs and a very talented running quarterback as well. So that could be a dangerous team heading into the postseason. We know the Vikings are playoff bound once again. We continue plays of the week with Greensburg Central Catholic, and Jaden Kennedy had an unforgettable homecoming to Jeanette as he scored 4 touchdowns in the first half against his former team, capped by a punt return score as called by Brent Wiggum and special guest commentator Julian Bass.
The punt is away by Mitchell Steele, far sideline towards Jaden Kennedy. He's going to let it bounce. Now going to go back, finally picks it up at the 27-yard line. Across the 35, spins his way to the 40, 50, the other 40. Jaden Kennedy is going to take this one to the house as well. Oh boy, Jaden Kennedy. I don't see any flags down. I'm looking back here. I think
I don't see any. Yeah, I think it stands.
Wow. He is having himself a special night here tonight, Julian.
Yeah, he is.
I think he knew you were going to be up here tonight, so he wanted to have a special game for you.
Yeah, that's someone like a little brother to me. He always will be. So.
Yeah, Julian Bass did a great job, and I'm sure let's be honest, we had 2 Jeanette guys broadcasting the game with Julian Batts and Brent Wiggum. To see Jaden Kennedy doing what he was doing, I'm sure deep down it hurt them, but they were being professional on the air, calling the game as they saw it. And Jaden Kennedy, I remember seeing him as a sophomore last year for Jeanette. I knew that he would have a big year. I thought it would be for Jeanette, but now at Greensburg Central Catholic, he's certainly been doing some nice things for the Centurions.
Yeah, and Julian had played with his older brothers as well. So, yeah, that's one of those situations where it seems like everyone who's come up through Jeanette football, they tend to know all the brothers and relatives and maybe even fathers and sons of some of the former players. So, yeah, great to have Julian there on the call. Did a good job from what I heard. We conclude plays of the week with the Pearl Buccaneers as Caden DiCaprio had another big night on the ground, including the first points of the game against Dairy Area as he crossed the goal line midway through the second quarter to put his team in the lead, as called by John Flickinger and Bob Lisinski.
Double tight, full house backfield, wing to the right. Beatty gives DiCaprio, big hole right side, 10 and to the 5 and fighting toward the goal line, and he's in for the touchdown. Caden DiCaprio never did go down. He takes it right off the right side for 16 yards, and Burrow scores first. They lead 6-0.
That was nice cut there by DiCaprio. He was able to go out off tackle there and just kept on going, was untouched into the end zone.
Caden DiCaprio, we have said his name. He has been the staple on what has been a difficult season for Pearl. He has done everything in his power, and he finally got his team a very impressive victory against a struggling Trojans team. That'll do it for plays of the week. We'll take a break, but when we return, I had the chance to talk to the longtime head coach for the Ligonier Valley Rams, Roger Beitel, to talk about the season as a whole, and in particular, the thrilling victory by a single point this past week. You want to stick around for that. That's upcoming next as we continue right here on Westmoreland on the Gridiron.
We know speaking with your teen or your young adult about drugs and alcohol can be challenging, but is necessary. Remember to have a conversation, not a confrontation. Establish good communications, break through barriers, and be firm but loving. Here are some helpful tips. Choose a good place and time to chat. Talk with openness. Actively listen. Offer empathy and support. For more information, visit us online at wedacinc.org. Westmoreland Drug and Alcohol Commission. Prevention is key.
Hi, I'm Anthony D'Annunzio from D'Annunzio's Restaurants. Come visit us at one of our 3 locations, Jeanette, Monroeville, or Latrobe. We're open 7 days a week, so we've always got something cooking at D'Annunzio's. For our dine-in specials, Monday it's spaghetti. It's raviolis on Tuesday, lasagna on Wednesday, and on Thursday it's chicken parmesan or chicken romano. Visit us online at D'Annunzio'sRestaurant.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. D'Annunzio's Restaurants. It's a family tradition.
We continue here with Westmoreland on the Gridiron. Sean Meyers now joined by the longtime head coach for the Ligonier Valley Rams, Roger Beitel. His team coming off of a thriller 26-25 defeating Shadyside Academy to improve to 7-2. Roger, thank you for doing this, and I'm sure that the last minute or so of the game against Shadyside Academy put you through a little bit of an emotional roller coaster. Kind of talk me through how that last minute played out from your perspective on the sidelines.
Well, first off, Sean, thanks for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about our football team this evening. Yeah, it was quite an ending. Shadyside actually went down and scored in the fourth quarter. We got the ball back, and we quickly turned it over to them on punts. It gave them a lot of time, but then our defense played really, really well, and we forced a 3-and-out. We got the ball back. We moved a little bit, and then we were forced to punt. Grant Dowden got off a great punt, pinned them deep in their own 20. So they had a long field to go, and we felt really good, and our defense stood tall. They went on fourth down. We got to stop a couple yards short. We get the ball back, but we were in a situation where it was extremely difficult for us because of the clock management. They had 3 timeouts, and I keep something on my play sheet. I've done it for 18 years now, where it tells you, how much time you need to have, and based on the number of timeouts your opponent has, etc. And we were in a situation with 3 timeouts. The most we could take off the clock if we took knees was 45 seconds, and there was about 1:24 left in the game, and we were just in a tough situation. And we were one play from being able to finish off the clock and take the knee, and then we had a bad snap. Shadyside kids hustled to the ball. We couldn't fall on it. They picked it up and they returned it the whole way for a touchdown, and we were just like in disbelief. We couldn't believe that this was happening to us. And then we had 1 timeout remaining. They lined up to go for 2 to win the football game. We got a chance to see what they were going to do, and then they ran the play, and then Nick Beitel came up hard from the corner position, which if the quarterback hadn't had his hands on the ball the way he did, he might have been able to pick it up and throw it into the end zone. Once Nick came off his receiver, Nick got there first, didn't quite wrap him up, and then Jude Shavinsky came in from his defensive tackle position, finished the kid off, and literally the ball landed about 7 inches short of the goal line, and now we're ahead. They onside kicked. They touched the ball before it hit 10 yards. We took over, took a knee, and got out of it. But it was certainly a crazy game for us. That's 2 years in a row that we've played Shadyside Academy, in which the game is really an out of the ordinary football game. Literally came down to the last play last year, and then the last play again this year, and it was just insane. They had 3 returns for touchdowns against us. Our defense, we thought we defensively played real well. Things just were out of the ordinary, and that's kind of what we've come to grow accustomed to whenever you play Ligonier Valley and Shadyside Academy game.
And last year, as well as this year, the games had real significance. Last year, it allowed your team to finish with a winning record at 4-3. This year, it was absolutely crucial in terms of the playoffs, because now at 2-2, you sit alone in third place, and your conference takes 3 guaranteed teams to the postseason. So it was so crucial in that regard. What does a win like that in dramatic fashion mean to your program?
Well, unfortunately for our program is that, we won the game and it was very dramatic, but it was a real downer. I mean, our kids were down because, they came so close to really having the game slip away from us. And then, we're still kind of recovering from that because, ultimately in the end, it was just a series of mistakes that we made throughout the game that even kept the game close. Starting off with a kickoff return for a touchdown. That was the first play of the game. Then the last play before the half, we threw an interception return for a touchdown. We were cruising along with a 26-6 lead, and then quickly momentum changed. And then the way that it ended in the end was really difficult, and then it doesn't help also whenever you have a lot of people criticizing me and the program and the kids for our clock management and those types of things. So what should have been a real joyous occasion turned out to be a little bit bittersweet because, just the way that it ended, and it wasn't as satisfying as you might think just because of the way that we played, and we're all kind of disappointed in that, but we are excited for the opportunity that we have ahead of us, that we control our own destiny. Considering everything that we've gone through this year, starting last week was the first week this season where we didn't lose a kid to injury for the remainder of the season. So it's just been that kind of a year for us, and now to sit at 7-2 and have an opportunity that with a win we're guaranteed to get in the playoffs. And I know we're going to be possibly if we win we'll be the third team in our conference, but I mean, look at the strength of our football conference. The Allegheny Conference will have a 10-0, a 9-1, and an 8-2 team, with a victory by us on Friday night. And we think that we should be seated pretty highly. But, we don't really know where that'll be because of the conference standings. But what's crazy, Sean, is to think that if we don't win on Friday night, we'll be 7-3, and we won't make the playoffs. And there will be teams that are 3-7 and 4-6 that get in. To us, that's just crazy to think that could possibly happen.
Talking to Roger Beitel, head coach for Ligonier Valley here on Westmoreland on the Gridiron. Well, you mentioned your team's great record of 7-2, and that was bolstered by a 5-0 start in which you won all non-conference games, but one that really stood out, 26-14 at Elizabeth Forward. When you look back to the start of this season, what really stands out about your team's performance?
Well, to start off, first off, we were challenged. Our first two games, Indiana they're in the playoffs. They're a 4A school. And then Elizabeth Forward, who has just basically dominated their conference, and they've dominated a lot of schools bigger than us in Westmoreland County. I think the statistic we read today was that they've given up 67 total points this year, and 26 of them were to us. So we got off to a great start. And, unfortunately for us, we felt that we had a really, really strong football team, especially early on. And then the injury bug just, I wouldn't even say hit us. It ran us over. We faced adversity. We made adjustments. We kept going. But literally every single week, from week 1 to week 6, we suffered at least one season-ending injury to one of our key guys. We were, as a coaching staff and as a team, we felt really, really strongly about what this football team could do at full capacity. And now, we know we're not at full capacity, but we still have that opportunity to get into the playoffs, and we still have a real good nucleus. It's just tough to overcome, some of the injuries that we had to some of these key guys. I mean, I'm not talking about just, a starter. We're talking about all conference guys that were juniors, state leaders and tackles, just an incredible amount. And, what we were able to do with our team early on, I think says a lot about what our kids, how they were prepared for the season. And looking back now, I mean, EF they were state ranked when we beat them, and now they've climbed back up in the standings, and they've really dominated. And we've been watching closely what they were able to do to Mount Pleasant and Southmoreland, especially the last 2 weeks, and we're like, wow, I hope people don't forget that come playoff time that we beat them. So those were some key victories, and we knew that we had a really, really tough non-section schedule. But looking back, Sean, you question why do you play the first 5 games? Look from our standpoint, and then not even play a conference game until week 6. And so that's one of those things that we're learning, but that's tough to swallow. Maybe they should expand, the number of teams you have in a conference so that you have more meaningful games, because we were playing great football early on with our full complement of players, and then we ultimately started to lose them one by one as we went on through the season, and then ultimately, I guess the highlight / low light of all that was whenever we were forced with a situation where we lost 3 starters due to injury in one game against Steel Valley. We had 5 kids that were out ill, non-COVID, but were out with bronchitis and things like that. And we were in a position where, we had to forfeit a game. And that's not something that I ever thought as the head coach of this program that we would ever have to do. And it was one of the most difficult sports decisions that we've ever had to do in this program.
And you mentioned some of the players who have been out, guys like Miles Higgins, obviously, Ryan Harbert. And one who was out for quite a while was your starting quarterback in Hayden Siraki. Fortunately, he's been able to come back the last couple of weeks, and maybe in a slightly different capacity, running the football a lot. I did see he was able to throw a little bit as well against the Bulldogs. So what does getting him back mean to your team?
Well, first off is that when he came back, he brought a sense of energy that, I think that a lot of kids didn't quite understand. Whenever you're in a situation like he was in, and all of a sudden you think that your season's over and you're not going to play another down of football, and then all of a sudden you go to the doctor and then, you get clearance to play, even though late in the week, he really energized the lineup by coming back. He's an outstanding athlete for sure. And he made his presence known last week against Shadyside as well. The first week he was back, not so much. And that had a lot to do with the fact that he got cleared very late in the week. And so it wasn't really fair for us to take our quarterback and switch things around. But, there's still some limitations to what he can do. But getting him back was a big thing. Getting Nick Beitel back was a key component for us. He's still not 100% yet, but those guys being on the field at a lesser capacity certainly gives us a better dimension than what we had, going back to week 7 whenever we had the forfeit. Some of those other guys, still haven't gotten back yet. That's neither here nor there. We're just moving forward. We're doing the best we can with what we have.
And lastly, sitting at 7-2, you mentioned that it's not a guarantee that your team will get into the playoffs. You have one more regular season game at home against Apollo Ridge. If you win that game, you're certainly in. If not, it could come down to tiebreakers, Gardner points, things like that you, I'm sure, do not want to deal with. So what will be key to have success and get to victory against the Vikings?
Well, first off, number one is we can't have any self-inflicted wounds. You look back at what happened against Shadyside. Our defense played really well. They only surrendered 1 score. Everything else was a result of a return, a fumble return, interception return, a kickoff return. We can't just give up scores like that. And then we made some mistakes also. When I say self-inflicted, we made a couple mistakes down inside their 10-yard line. We had the ball down inside their 10-yard line twice, including once on literally the 1-inch line, because for some reason we weren't awarded a touchdown whenever basically the entire line and the running back was standing in the end zone. They marked it short, and then we fumbled the next snap. Moved back to the 4. Then the next play we blow an assignment. Just a lot of self-inflicted things. We can't do that against an Apollo Ridge team. They have a lot of kids coming back from last year, although the record may not indicate it, but they have a lot of experience. And we have to stop their running game. They're a team that likes to come out with a lot of different formations. They'll even come out with 9 guys on the line of scrimmage with a lead blocker and a wildcat, and just give you a lot of different things to power at you. And we can't allow that to happen. We have to really take advantage of things in special teams, ultimately just focus in and recover from some of the mistakes we made last week.
Roger, thank you so much as always for taking the time. Good luck on Friday.
All right, Sean, thank you, and I appreciate for you having me on.
That's Roger Beitel, the head coach for the Ligonier Valley Rams here.
At Sendell Subaru, we believe that every dog deserves to have its day. And in honor of National Make It Dogs Day, Sendell Subaru will be donating $100 to Animal Friends of Westmoreland for each dog adopted during the month of October. And throughout October, Subaru Loves Pets Month, we encourage you to consider adopting one of the thousands of adoptable pets waiting for their forever homes in local animal shelters. They would love to meet you. Sendell Subaru. It all starts with the heart.
The Westmoreland Sports Network is available on social media. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and like our page on Facebook for the latest Westmoreland County sports news, WSN broadcast links, scores, game stories, videos, pictures, and much, much more. Also be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for archived interviews and broadcast highlights. The Westmoreland Sports Network is available whenever and however you want it.
Welcome back to Westmoreland on the Gridiron. We appreciate Roger Beitel, as always, for talking to us, the head coach for the Ligonier Valley Rams. I have worked with Roger for a long time, going back to my first year at the Latrobe Bulletin. He's always had a great program, and it looks like they have certainly silenced any critics about can they compete in the WPIAL, but they still have another goal remaining, and that is, as he said, to get to the playoffs. That's our coach interview of the week. We will have a player interview upcoming with Carter Green. He was selected the player of the week by you, the fans.
Yes, he was. Carter has been nominated a few times this year, certainly deserving this week. He completed 9 of 13 passes for 139 yards, 3 touchdowns, plus he rushed for 2 scores. And one of the big things that we have seen from Carter is his maturation in the passing game. It really wasn't there at the beginning of the year, but he was a first-year starter. And John Ruane said last week, listen, it's really tough to play at the varsity level when you have no experience at the quarterback level, at the quarterback position, I should say. When you have guys in your face really coming at you, that's something you can't really simulate in practice. And I think Carter has really shown that he can be a dual-threat quarterback, especially the last couple of weeks. So he wins our player of the week. Congratulations to him. But also, we mentioned earlier, Jaden Kennedy. He was one of our nominees this week, almost 200 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns, also returned a punt against Jeanette last week. Shane Swope for the Yawk Cougars. I really loved having him as a part of our player of the week candidates because we have not had a Yawk player on this year. He had 148 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns in that victory over the Brownsville Falcons. And Cody Rubrecht, man, he seems like he's been on this every week. He and Hayden Teska have been special all year. Rubrecht with 9 catches over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns for the Golden Lions. So don't forget, we release our Player of the Week nominees. Now, we're only going to have one more because this is the last week of the regular season. We release them on Sunday. That's when you can start voting. You can vote once per day. And don't forget to share. Share on your Facebook. Share on your Twitter. Even if you want to take a picture of it and throw it up on IG, you can do that as well. And that way you can get the votes for who you think should win Player of the Week.
And I guess we should note that we will have a show next week in which we will honor a Player of the Week, but it will be our playoff show.
And we get to be back together, right, Sean?
Fingers crossed. And just make sure you stay safe now, because I'm good at least for the next few months. So we will have the goal is to get all of the Westmoreland County head coaches who are playoff bound to have interviews with all of them. So it will be a comprehensive playoff preview, as well as looking back at the final week of the regular season. And again, we will have one more player of the week. But for now, let's hear from our current player of the week, Carter Green. After this break, we will hear from the quarterback for the Penn-Trafford Warriors as he talked to our Dan Flickinger. As we continue right here on Westmoreland on the Gridiron.
At D'Annunzio's, our menu is extensive with an abundance of selections. The next best thing to being at one of our 3 locations is having our frozen food and jarred sauce in your own home. For our frozen food selections, we have wedding soup, pasta fagioli, lasagna, stuffed cheese rigatoni, ricotta cavatelli, and potato gnocchi. Our jarred sauces include the original, smooth, marinara, and tomato cream. These products can all be found at our restaurants or your local grocer.
The Manor Valley Golf Course in Export is proud to announce the opening of their new banquet facility. It's perfect for sports banquets, Christmas parties, and weddings. This new facility can hold up to 180 people, so if you have an event coming up, Manor Valley Golf Course can host it. Golfers, they specialize in league play, fundraising outings, and have great membership rates. Give them a call at 724-744-4242 or online at manorvalleygc.com.
Welcome back to Westmoreland on the Gridiron. Dan Flickinger with you, and it is time to talk with our Week 8 Westmoreland Sports Network Player of the Week. He is Carter Green from the Penn-Trafford Warriors, and what a week Carter had against Franklin Regional last week. 3 touchdowns through the air, 2 on the ground in the Warriors' victory over the Panthers. Carter, thank you so much for taking some time out and joining us here tonight.
Thank you very much for having me.
Carter, let's talk about that performance you had against Franklin Regional. First of all, as a team, because you look at Franklin Regional, they came in with a lot of momentum coming off of a crazy comeback win against Latrobe, but you guys seem to be peaking at the right time. So what was your mindset going in? And talk about the way that you guys really took the game over early and really took control early of it.
Right. So, yeah, we knew that they were going to be hot coming in right after that crazy comeback win. So we had to go in there. You know, we had to play our best game, and everyone on the team knew that. So went out there, did what we had to do, and momentum started to go our way, and we kept rolling with it.
Talk about your performance. Again, you threw 3 touchdown passes, ran for 2 more, and I know that you've been working really hard at the passing game since week 1. This is your first year quarterback, so it certainly hasn't been easy. But how did the offense play in your eyes against the Panthers? Because it seemed like you guys really, again, you took control of the game early.
Right. Yeah. I think we played very well offensively. Obviously, didn't play perfect yet, so we're still looking to play our best game. But yeah, everything was clicking for us. Our run game, our pass game was definitely improving. So yeah, that's very important to us moving to the end of this regular season and into the postseason.
Carter, what has been the biggest challenge for you coming in as a first-year starting quarterback? I know the passing game wasn't where you wanted it to be at the beginning of the season. What was the biggest challenge for you, do you think?
I think the biggest challenge for me was at the beginning of the season, just getting my confidence, getting my head clear and just going out and playing without any thoughts running through my mind. That was definitely the biggest thing. And I think we're to a point where that's been straightened out. So that's definitely good.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, you've been such a tough runner all year. I love to watch you play. And then it seemed like a couple of weeks ago, maybe that Gateway game, the passing game really started clicking. Do you like where it's at right now?
Yeah, I do. I definitely think it still needs to keep moving forward, but we're at a good point.
Now, in terms of running the football, it looks like you've always been a natural, starting with, a 99-yard touchdown run against Norwin in the first game of the season, and you've been running the ball hard all year. Is that something that has been a weapon of yours to kind of be a dual threat quarterback, even, youth football coming up all the way through?
Yeah, definitely. I've always been a runner, but I really got to give the credit to my line. I mean, a fantastic job this year. They're giving me, Cade, any back in the backfield that touches the ball, just that crease that we need to make a big play out of it. So I'm really thankful for those guys.
Yeah, those guys have certainly been awesome. So we talk about the offensive side of the ball, but defensively, I mean, you guys have been great all year, and you're a big part of the defense as well. Is it tough to play both ways sometimes? And just talk about the defensive play that you guys have had this year, because, again, it's been stifling.
Right. I think the first game definitely was tough to play both ways. Mm-hmm. It was a hot game. It was about 90 degrees and high humidity. So especially acclimating to that first full speed football game, that got a little tough. But after that, it wasn't that bad. And yeah, we have a very strong defense. We play hard. We play together as a team, and yeah, it's worked out great for us.
Yeah, you guys have been playing some great football. Do you think you're peaking right now, kind of at the right time? I just feel like you're playing your best football when you need to, and maybe better than you were in the first couple weeks of the season. Do you kind of feel that too as one of the leaders of this team?
Right. Yeah, I feel like we're getting close. We're getting close to that peak.
Talking right now with our Week 8 Westmoreland Sports Network Player of the Week, Carter Green from the Penn-Trafford Warriors. Carter, I'm sure it was an emotional night. I know that you still, I guess you did clinch it. You'll have one more playoff game, which is great, or one more home game, I should say, which is great. But you had your last regular season home game. It was senior night for you. What were the emotions like, and kind of what was it like enjoying the night with your family and the other seniors?
Yeah, I mean, it was tough to think about that last regular season home game. So that was definitely tough, but that really gave us a lot of motivation, me along with the other seniors, to go out and play our best game. So, yeah.
I have to ask you, too, what it's like to play for John Ruane. Obviously a great offensive mind. He's been doing huge things at Penn-Trafford for over a decade now. What is it like to play for him and kind of run his style of offense?
It feels great to play for him. He's an amazing coach. You know, he can be tough on you sometimes, but he knows what he's doing and he gets the job done. So it's been a really great 3 years playing under him.
Now you guys go up against the Greater Latrobe Wildcats this Friday. It's interesting too because is this the first time you'll play on a grass field all year?
Yes, this will be the first time.
Yeah, and I'm sure you guys can't think of that. And if I asked Coach Ruane that, he'll be like, I don't care if it's grass or turf, whatever. But, you know, you're playing on grass. It's probably going to rain on Friday night. I mean, is that something that was even discussed or you kind of prepare for, or you just kind of go out and play football?
Yeah, he warned us. He said, be prepared for the conditions. It might be muddy. It's going to be wet. So, you know, just get that out of your head and go play football. We can't focus on that. We just got to go play our game. So,
when you look at the Latrobe Wildcats, what do they like to do kind of on defense, I guess we'll say? And what do you guys have to do to come away with the win Friday?
Yeah, I mean, defense, they play pretty tough. They have some pretty strong backers back there. So, you know, we just got to stick to the normal game plan. Play our game, and we should be okay.
Yeah, you certainly want to go into the playoffs with a lot of momentum, that's for sure. Carter, I have to ask you, you won't be playing football in college. You will be playing for lacrosse, and you'll be playing for one of the best Division II men's lacrosse teams in the country at Seton Hill University, a team that we've had an opportunity to broadcast in their regional, in their conference championships. Very good team. What kind of allowed you to make that decision to attend Seton Hill, and why lacrosse over, I guess, football?
Right. So for being lacrosse over football, I've played both for a very long time. I've been playing football since I was in kindergarten. I've been playing lacrosse since I was 4th grade. And I don't know, it just kind of dawned on me one day that, hey, I want to take lacrosse to the next level. I love them both. But lacrosse is the one that I want to take up there. And Seton Hill, it was definitely a great option for me. With Coach Navani being there, great coaching staff. They have a really good team culture, and their academics at Seton Hill will really fit what I'm trying to do. So, it was a perfect choice.
Carter, what do you think will be the keys to you guys having success in the playoffs? What do you think you have to do well to get to your ultimate goal? And I'm sure that's Heinz Field.
Yeah, so we got to keep getting better every week. We got to be able to find these mistakes that we're making, correct them, and we just got to play together. We play our best when we play together, so that's what we're looking forward to doing.
Before I let you go, I meant to squeeze this in earlier. I have to ask you about the interception return by Zach Tomasevich in the third quarter, early in the third. I mean, not only did he bat the ball up in the air, he intercepted it and went back for a touchdown. To see a defensive lineman do something like that, what was going through your mind? I mean, you guys were absolutely going nuts, or at least the guys were on the sideline, that's for sure. I'm sure the guys on the field were too. Were you on the field when that happened or not?
I was not. No, I was on the sideline.
Okay, what was it like on the sideline? Because I saw, after he scored the touchdown, everyone was just going crazy.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it was an electric moment, that's for sure. I was standing on the sidelines. I see the ball go up in the air, and I see him running under it, and he catches that ball, and everyone starts jumping up and down and pushing each other over. It was great. It was great.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun. You guys certainly do a lot of things like that, and it's great to see one of the guys that, probably won't – he may never get into the end zone again unless he's pancaking somebody into the end zone, which he might be doing that a lot as well,
right,
the remainder of the season. So Halloween is coming up. Are you going as anything? I mean, did you get a costume? Did you design anything, or are you more focused on football and academics right now?
Yes, I'm wearing an 80s costume.
An 80s costume?
Yes.
So what did you go with for the 80s costume?
I have a neon pink shirt and some crazy MC Hammer pants, and and then I got a blow up boombox.
Oh, that's clutch. That sets it off right there, buddy. Yeah, no doubt about it. And the student section was rocking their pink the other night too, and
they were.
Know how much support they give you, but that'll be a lot of fun. Hey, this was great, Carter. I really appreciate it. Good luck the rest of the season. Hopefully we'll talk again, but if not, I'll definitely see you on the Hill plenty of times when you're playing for that great men's lacrosse team. But good luck the rest of the year, and hopefully we'll see you at Heinz.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
That is Carter Green, our Week 8 Westmoreland Sports Network Player of the Week. Coming up, we'll preview Week 9 games, including the Warriors and the Wildcats, right here on the Westmoreland Sports Network.
You're always on the winning team with Bowser Chevrolet of Monroeville and Bowser Chevrolet Chippewa. Visit BowserChevrolet.com 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and get the power of Bowser in your hands. With the new Chevy vehicles arriving weekly, reserve yours now at Bowser Chevrolet. See the full lineup of Chevy cars, trucks, and SUVs at BowserChevrolet.com. Bowser Chevrolet, where the power of Bowser is yours.
We know speaking with your teen or your young adult about drugs and alcohol can be challenging, but is necessary. Remember to have a conversation, not a confrontation. Establish good communications, break through barriers, and be firm but loving. Here are some helpful tips. Choose a good place and time to chat. Talk with openness. Actively listen. Offer empathy and support. For more information, visit us online at wedacinc.org. Westmoreland Drug and Alcohol Commission. Prevention is key.
Welcome back to Westmoreland on the Gridiron each and every Wednesday, 7 p.m. right here on the Westmoreland Sports Network. Sean Meyers, Dan Flickinger coming to you. We appreciate Carter Green, the quarterback for the Penn-Trafford Warriors.
Sean, how cool is it that he's going to be a Griffin and we're going to get to call more of his games in the next 4 years when we do
not in
lacrosse,
football, at least not the plan as of now, but in lacrosse, LAX.
Yes.
Yeah, certainly looking forward to that. I think some of those skills are transferable, right? He's a tough guy, plays hard.
Oh, yeah.
That should certainly apply to lacrosse as well. Let's now take a look at the Week 9 preview. Yes, it is Week 9. It is the final week of the regular season, believe it or not. Some of these games have significant playoff implications. Other ones, they're kind of just bragging rights. Let's look at the games that we will have broadcasts of. In the first one, this is certainly a big bragging rights game. Norwin at Hempfield area. That will be a video broadcast. By the way, all of these games on Friday are 7 o'clock start times that we'll be discussing. Norwin at Hempfield area will have the video broadcast of that one. Yes, these teams won't be making the playoffs, but for Norwin, a team that wants to continue this surge, for Hempfield area, it has been a rough stretch over the past month or so. They want some positives heading into the offseason. And anytime you get to play your local rival, it always counts a little bit more.
Yeah, I've already seen the trash talk picking up on Twitter. So, these two teams, I mean, no matter what has happened this year, I know they're not going to the playoffs, but it's a big game for both communities for sure. And, hey, we're going to be seeing each team play each other in basketball pretty soon, too.
Absolutely. A game that will have major implications for the playoffs. Two teams that we know are in, but it's a matter of how they will seed. McKeesport at Bell Vernon area, first place on the line because McKeesport knocked off Thomas Jefferson last week. This is sort of a repeat of how things played out last year. The Leopards looking to go undefeated and to get what I think would be a shoo-in for the number 1 seed if they hold serve at home and knock off McKeesport.
Talk about one of the biggest games of the year. And a few weeks ago, well, maybe more, I guess a month ago, when we broadcast the Thomas Jefferson Bell Vernon game, some people thought that was going to be the de facto conference championship, and McKeesport saying, oh, wait a second, we have something to say about that. They knock off TJ for the second straight year. That sets up, again, as you mentioned, Sean, the conference championship game. And if Bell Vernon wins it, they probably get they should get the number 1 seed. If McKeesport wins it, I don't know if they're a shoo-in for the number 1 seed, but it certainly makes things a lot more interesting here at the end of the year, and that should be a fantastic game. I can't wait to see it. And there already is some chirping back and forth on some social media pages between McKeesport and Bell Vernon fans. So that should be a lot of fun Friday night.
Yeah, McKeesport, always a great program, great tradition. Matt Miller's done a fine job with that program. And of course, Coach Humbert, maybe this is the year for the Leopards to win the title. A victory against McKeesport would go a long way towards
certainly
that.
Good to have Quentin Martin back too for Bell Vernon, who obviously stormed back last week or 2 weeks ago, I guess it would be, with a huge game. And then Bell Vernon was off this past week, so that allowed him a little more time to rest up.
Yeah, the rare idle week in week 8 of the regular season. Other games, we will have broadcasts of Gateway at Franklin Regional. We know those teams are playoff bound, but that's a bit of a rivalry as well for Franklin Regional. You say, okay, Gateway's a rivalry, Penn-Trafford's a rivalry. They didn't do well in the first rivalry matchup, hoping to get a much better performance playing at home this time against the Gators.
And if Franklin Regional can elevate its program where it wants to be, if Lance Getsy can get it there, Franklin Regional and Gateway, if they start having competitive games, could really become a great rivalry considering how close the schools are, Sean.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I don't know if this one's a rivalry, but there's not much in terms of bigger stakes than Greensburg-Salem at Plum, because the Golden Lions probably have to win to get in. Now, there might be a scenario where they lose and still make it, but that would be probably a bit of a long shot. If they win, they are in. And that's the most important thing. They control their destiny. They have to go play a Plum squad that's actually been a lot better in the second half of the season. Remember, is the Mustangs, who won the conference last year, made it all the way to the semifinals. Greensburg-Salem has been as up and down all season long. We know who they're going to rely on, though. They're great passing duo, Hayden Teska, the quarterback, and Cody Rubrek. And this is what you live for, right? To have those games with real meaning to wrap up the regular season.
Oh, absolutely. Again, it would have been nice if you're Greensburg-Salem to clinch a playoff spot last week. It didn't happen. So, hey, Dave Kiefer tells his team, we still have something to play for. We win this game, we're in the postseason. I think if they lose, Sean, I guess they still could get in with a lot of help. But, again, you control your own destiny, win the football game, and you're in.
Yeah, you do not want to back your way into the playoffs. Even if you do get in, going in on a couple game skid, not ideal by any stretch of the imagination. Another game that we will have broadcast of, Dairy area at North Catholic. That will be the last game this season for the Trojans. We talked to their broadcaster, John Flickinger. Again, interesting to monitor how everything unfolds. Probably not going to win that game. That's a dynamic North Catholic team, but will the discipline and structure remain in place? Will the effort be there for Dairy area? Certainly, I think those are the biggest goals for the Trojans. And another one, Jeanette at Clareton. The Bears have been downright dominant, and Jeanette has been anything but. But again, the biggest takeaway for this one, Flick, for people who have met Roy Hall, this is their send-off to him, right? I know it's a road game, but the last chance maybe to see and hear him on the sidelines for Jeanette.
Yeah, and again, it's just a shame because if Jeanette, had the players that they were supposed to have this year, I think that the Jeanette would be heavily favored maybe, in this game. Obviously, that's not the case. I mean, that has been the case all year. So it's just a shame that, hopefully Jeanette goes out, plays as hard as they possibly can and stays in the game. And I'm sure they'll be playing for him. But no matter how this game turns out, I will remember Coach Hall beating Clareton last year in convincing fashion in the Whitfield championship game.
Yep, the Mercy Rule victory. And by the way, I'm sure some of those Bears players remember that outcome as well.
Yeah, I have a feeling they might.
Other games taking place around Westmoreland County. Penn-Trafford at Greater Latrobe. Again, the Wildcats already eliminated. Penn-Trafford, we know, is absolutely rolling right now, postseason bound for the Warriors. Penn Hills at Kiski area. Unfortunately for the Cavaliers, this one won't have any playoff implications. They were eliminated with their loss against Pine Richland. But we know one thing about Kiski area. They play competitively against everyone. I would expect that would be the case here at home against a pretty good Penn Hills Indians team. Mount Pleasant area at South Allegheny. The Vikings are in. They would love to solidify their playoff standing. How about this one? Southmoreland at South Park. It's another, in all likelihood, winning you're in, losing you're out type of scenarios. Again, there might be some ways that it could work out where the Scotties could get in if they lose, but you take care of business. If Southmoreland wins, they are definitely in, but they'll have to go on the road against South Park team that, quite frankly, is struggling a little bit this year.
Yeah, and you look at Southmoreland, the way that they performed early last week against Elizabeth Forward, things were looking okay, and then EF just flexed its muscles and really ran away with it. So the Scotties kind of licking their wounds a little bit, but again, they, much like Greensburg-Salem, have an opportunity with a victory to get into the postseason. South Allegheny's a scrappy team. Our man Sean Benjamin's over there. We'll give him another shout out, and we'll see how that game plays out.
And remember, for a game like this, I think you lean upon your leaders, and I'm looking at Anthony Govern. That's the guy who was so good early in the season. He has to be the best player out there on the field, I would say, for the Scotties. York has the unenviable task of going to Elizabeth Forward to face a Warriors team that is absolutely steamrolling everyone lately. That will be the final game of the season for York. How about this? Valley at Burrell. That's a nice little AK Valley showdown. And the Buccaneers have a real chance to get into the playoffs. If they win this game and they get a little bit of help with Deer Lakes losing, it would be Burrell who would get in. And I don't think anyone thought a couple weeks ago that the Buccaneers might be playoff bound. Now, again, it's not a done deal. They don't truly control their own destiny. But if they win, they'll probably have a pretty good shot to get in.
Yeah, how about that? Nobody, I don't think, thought, midway through the season that Burrell would have an opportunity to do that, but they've set themselves up in a position now to be in a win and probably in scenario.
Yeah, you win the games that you need to win. Those are the most important things, certainly. Apollo Ridge at Ligonier Valley. We mentioned this one again. It's sort of a unique setup because 3 teams are guaranteed out of that Allegheny Conference in Class 2A. Ligonier Valley wants to win and guarantee its spot as the number 3 team. If they lose, they could potentially get in because there may be a wild card that comes out of the conference, but we don't know that. It depends on a lot of other things. Again, you don't want to leave it up to risk. So for Roger Beitel and crew going to Weller Field, they want to take care of business. He told me before the season, Flick, one of the biggest goals is to get to the WPIAL playoffs because they've done that so many times year after year after year in District 6. They had a winning record last year, but did not make the playoffs the way it was set up. Only 2 teams went in from their conference. So I think that would be a nice feather in their cap if they are ever to get into the postseason. They have to go through Apollo Ridge to do so.
Yeah, if I was a betting man, I think LV is going to find their way in. They have too much pride not to. I think they'll figure out a way.
Yep, and I guess Dan Flickinger also giving betting advice this week if you're looking.
Go to Rivers.
Leechburg at Greensburg Central Catholic could be a high-scoring affair. We know both these teams are playoff bound. And by the way, Leechburg had the longest drought dating back to the 80s. How good of a story is it for the Blue Devils? They already know they're headed to the playoffs. No drama in this one. But it is a big game because we know there's Clareton, there's Bishop Canavan, who's maybe the number 3 team. This one will likely decide it between GCC and the Blue Devils. Monessen at Avella, a chance for the Greyhounds to get into the playoffs as well with a victory if they're able to prevail on the road. That does it for the high school games, couple of college games as well. Seton Hill, I really thought playing against Slippery Rock about a month ago, that would be the toughest test that they had all season. They were going against the number 6 team in the country. Turns out this one might be harder. They go to play at Cal U on Saturday at 4:00. And let's just be honest, staying competitive and at least being in striking distance in the fourth quarter, I think you'd sort of take that almost as a win for the Griffins.
Yeah, and last time Seton Hill played at Cal U, it was actually a much closer game than people thought. The Griffins were right in it, just could not come away with the win. I think they'll be ready to go. I really do. Cal U's ranked 4th in the country, though. I mean, and not for no reason. I mean, they're really, really good. I mean, Cal U, IUP, and Slippery Rock every year. I mean, they just trade who's going to be the top team in the PSAC. And so it's really a meat grinder when you start playing these teams. And Seton Hill in the next 2 weeks, Cal U this week, IUP next week, and then Lock Haven to finish out the season. It'll definitely be a tough challenge, but I think the Griffins will keep it competitive.
Yeah, certainly hope that they can hang with the number 4 team in the country. Final one, Carnegie Mellon at St. Vincent College. That will be a 1:00 kickoff on Saturday. Well, Flick, it's almost unbelievable that we have now reached the near conclusion of the regular season. So for anybody who has not been with us the whole way, it's not just the live broadcasts that we have each and every Friday night, but there's all sorts of different content on WSN that keeps them up to date, not only with football, but with all the fall sports, right?
That's right. You can check out our scores, certainly, on the top of our website. Not only football scores on Friday nights, and when the playoffs roll around next week, we're going to have our scoreboard running there for you on Friday night. We'll have that up there. But also, we've been keeping everybody updated with women's, or I should say girls and boys soccer playoffs in the WPIAL, not only with our scores every night, but also some recaps for you on our website. So, while this is a football show and football is such a big sport, we also care about volleyball. We care about girls and boys soccer as well. Sean does a great job with our Westmoreland alum Q&As that we have for you every week, including our Friday football preview. So we have it all going on. We cover everything here on the Westmoreland Sports Network, and we can't wait to transition into the WPIL playoffs, which, by the way, the brackets will be released on Saturday.
Yeah,
not on
coaches
Monday.
will get a little bit more time to prepare, huh?
That's right. Coaches are happy, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And just doing a quick glance here, I think we have 5 teams that are guaranteed into the playoffs as we currently stand, but a chance to maybe get up to 7, 8, 9. So we are hoping Westmoreland County gets as many teams in as possible. We have a lot of rooting interest in that case. And again, next week, the goal is to talk to all the coaches from Westmoreland County whose teams do make the playoffs. We will have an absolutely massive show. It's going to be a long one, but it'll be well worth it because we will not only have our regular season wrap up with the plays of the week, with our player spotlight interview, but we will look ahead as well at all of the playoff games and talk to as many coaches as possible from Westmoreland County teams. That'll be next week, but for now, we'll put a bow on this one. Coming to you virtually from my house, Sean Meyers, and from Seton Hill University, Dan Flickinger. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll catch you next week for the special playoff edition of Westmoreland on the Gridiron.
Good night.